Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Welcome to episode 419 Inside the HBCU Sports Lab show and podcast that is covering the sporting HBCU diaspora. All things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live. KCWH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, multi-Hall of Famer, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, Charles, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. Countdown time is close. We're getting close to the MEAC and SWAC challenge next weekend. So football is upon us. Guys are in that second week of camp. Scrimmages are down. I tell you what, it's a fun time. It's an exciting time. We're right here on football season.
You're a little less a day away from being a week past your birthday. You feeling your age yet?
Already, yes. Yeah, you swing the clubs now. Your back just doesn't bounce back just fast already.
Nice stuff. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Doc. On the road in a much cooler place than Houston, Texas. But all is well.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
That's right. It's 75 degrees where I'm at versus the triple digit temperatures in Houston, Texas. But I'm all good. So
it seems like your rental car must have been working all right.
Say again?
Seems like your rental car worked all right this time.
Yeah, my rental car worked this time, but I went with Hertz this time. So not to throw names of shade out there. So
I see
that's
you
my go-to.
You sure threw it out there.
But I didn't go with that other company. It starts with an A. I ain't gonna say no name, but you can figure it out.
I see you weren't too happy with them. With that being said, let me go back to you, Charles, and let you start off with what's hot this week, what's not.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Let's start off with a little football. Benedict College and Virginia Union, they land in the Division II preseason top 25 poll ranking in the American Football Coaches Association Division II preseason rankings. Two HBCUs are ranked in the top 25. The reigning SIAC champion, the Benedict Tigers, they come in the 17th slot. Right behind them is the Virginia Union Panthers in the 18th slot. So Benedict and Virginia Union both coming in the preseason poll rankings 17 and 18.
Nice. Both teams went to the playoffs last year. Benedict finishing the season, losing the playoffs 11-1. They do have one first place vote I see here. That's pretty fascinating. Kudos to them. Obviously, they won the Black College Mid-Major Division National Championship that we unveiled last year. Right behind them was Virginia Union. As you talked about being 18 in its top 25, they finished last year 9-2, also losing in the playoffs. Fascinating to see what's going on there. Good stuff. Shout out to Benedict College, Virginia Union University. SIAC and CIAA getting some love in the top 25 Division II polls. Good stuff, Charles. Let me go to you, Mike. What do you have on your mind?
Well, there was another top 25 coaches poll out there. A MEAC and a SWAC team represented in the FCS top 25 coaches poll. Care of a lot of sources. So, reigning Celebration Bowl champion North Carolina Central, ranked number 19. Florida A&M. Those Rattlers, for anybody that may be producing this show and is quiet behind the scenes, are ranked number 25 in the poll. So you got the Eagles are coming off their 10-4 record, their first MEAC title since 2016, and en route to their Black College National Championship. Meanwhile, in their second season, SWAC FAMU recorded a straight 9-win season, finishing 9-2. What gets me out of both polls though is who's not there from certain divisions. So I'm sure maybe we'll have a chance to highlight that, but you're glad that those teams made it in, but and that they're recognized. But what gets me is a couple of teams that are not there. So
yeah, we might have to show that to the back end of the show and make sure you get a chance to kind of share your full on throttle thoughts in regards to who's not there. I think that would be great for discussion. As you said, number 19, North Carolina Central. They finished last season at 10-2, coming out of the MEAC, winning the Celebration Bowl and taking home the Black College National Championship. For many people out there, obviously they were our major division champion. At 25, you have FAMU finishing last season at 9-2. We didn't talk about this in the Division II poll, coaches poll that came out, but we'll go back to that. You also have some teams up in that receiving votes. In this case, you have North Carolina A&T, you have Southern and Howard receiving votes on the FCS level. On the Division II level, you actually had Bowie State, Maryland, Tuskegee, as well as Morehouse receiving votes in terms of those polls. So again, it'll be interesting to get both of your thoughts in regards to who you see missing out of there, why, and those kind of things. But let's stick with some of your thoughts as the news come in this segment. We'll go down that rabbit hole, if you would, and we'll say that for last to kind of get y'all up in the tether, or maybe some of our lab listeners up there in that last segment. But let me go back to you, Charles. What else out there has you thinking a little bit in regards to the HBCU news that says, hey, let me pause on this afternoon?
Yeah, I think this is significant news. Tennessee State President Dr. Glenn Glover announces her retirement. During the Monday news conference on TSU's campus, Dr. Glover announced her tenure will end at the conclusion of the 2024 spring semester. And this is a quote from Dr. Glover. Serving as president of Tennessee State University has been an honor of a lifetime. Words cannot express the emotions I have as I stand before you this morning. TSU prepared me for every accomplishment I have achieved throughout my career. This is where I got my start, where the seeds of excellence were sown for a young teenager from South Memphis who aspired to change the world. So Dr. Glenn Glover is stepping down as president of Tennessee State University. My former dean, Charles F. Moore School of Business at Jackson State when I was in college. So
that's pretty good. You snuck that in there. That was smooth. Like, I don't have my cap or golf cap on, so I can't tip my cap. So I certainly will salute her. Job well done. But you would bring that in. You know what the topic is going to be now. Is this going to open the door for Tennessee State to come to the SWAC when we just talked about that last week? We can't get over it before a move happens for folks already ready to go on the deep end and saying, what does this mean? She doesn't leave for another year now. She has another year. So it's time. We've got enough time to go through that. So I'll let that settle down. Let me go back to you, Mike, before we get too far ahead of ourselves. What else is on your mind this week? As we're closing down, we're getting a little closer to the Toe Meets Leather to kick things off in that opening weekend with the MEAC SWAC Challenge featuring South Carolina State out of the MEAC, Jackson State out of the SWAC, or as folks like to say in the SWAC territory, SWAC MEAC Challenge, Jackson State kicking off against South Carolina State. Whichever way you have it, it doesn't matter. But what else is on your mind in regards to some of the news this week before we get to that?
Yep. So Isaiah Burke is headed to Greece. Inks a pro deal with Psychikou from MEACsports.com So there are about 450 Bears currently living in Greece. There's one more to add to the total now. Former Morgan State men's basketball guard Isaiah Burke has signed to play with AE Psychikou Athens. So it's a Greek professional basketball club that's located in, Psychikou, Greece, and competes in the elite league. The athletics club is Athleticki, which is abbreviated AEPS, which means Athletic Union of Psychikou. Psychikou. That's a tongue twister, y'all. Burke was a fan favorite at Morgan, known for his toughness, lockdown defense, and hitting clutch baskets time and time again. Now he's ready to take the next step. He's ready to start his career in Greece, and which, according to him, is a dream come true. So he's dealt with a lot of adversity through his career. One thing that is it'll make it or break you, but only the strong shall survive, says Burke. Congratulations to this kid on this opportunity.
Gotcha. Good stuff there. Morgan State, getting it done. Basketball professional career. Good stuff. We go back to you, Charles. What else you got?
Yeah, let me stay with basketball. Coach Don Thornton at UAPB. The Lady Lions over there, a nice off-season splash as the Arkansas Pine Bluff women's basketball team. They went out and got former two-time Division I Conference Player of the Year Stark Jacobs in the transfer portal while playing at UT Arlington. Jacobs played 2 seasons with the team and winning Conference Player of the Year award each season. So she averaged 18.1 points and 8.8 rebounds per game. This is a significant addition to UABP women's basketball team, especially when you talk about players they already have on the roster in Zay Green and Maya Peak. So this is pretty significant.
Yeah, I agree. And Don continues to be able to recruit really well. Just got to get a little bit of a break. It seems to keep a couple of folks healthy. You never know. Obviously, she played in that championship game, so really close in terms of cutting down the nets, getting it done. So it doesn't surprise me that she continues to put in the work. Good stuff. I like y'all staying in the basketball framework. So I'm going to do that as well. Jump out of here with some news of the day. I got 2 of them for you before we get in this break. Might get your thoughts on a little bit of this. But you got Bonzi Wells. Moyne Owen. He's leaving the job there after he took over the job at Lemoyne Owen, and he's headed to a spot at Georgia Tech. Not as a head coach, but he'll be an assistant who is a former Trailblazer, as you man. He got his chance at Lemoyne Owen. After 2 seasons, he did have an overall winning record, 34-22. Wells is accepting a new role as an assistant coach at Georgia Tech. Obviously, new coach over there at Georgia Tech getting it done. It's to be fascinating to see how things go out in that way, as Damon Stoudemire, a teammate of his at the Trailblazers. So they come back together to work together to see what they can get from Georgia Tech. So it's kind of cool to see that opportunity. I hate to lose them from the HBCU rounds over there in IAC, but fascinating. Former magician standout Jaquan Lawrence was selected to the inaugural HBCU All-Star Game, was named SIAC Defensive Player of the Year under Wells. So Wells developed some talent under there. But more audience was building a program. It'd be interesting to see in what direction do they go in regards to that. Any thoughts in regards to any component of that news with Bonzi Wells leaving Lemoyne Owen and heading over to Georgia Tech? Y'all remember him playing a little bit in NBA?
Yeah, he was a heck of a defensive player. So
Absolutely.
That's a huge loss in terms of their coaching staff, but excited for him getting an opportunity to go to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, wish him well. He was a heck of a player in the league. You know, he was one of the ones you see him. If you go to HBCU game day, or I also saw it on a couple of the social media sites, you'll see him with the patented. Well, it's not patented, but you see the headband. He was one of those who was famous for the headbands, and he played. He was CB mentioned he was a great. He was an outstanding defensive player, all-around player supporting the team. But that headband is what you remember him for a lot of times. It was very signature for Bonzi Wells.
Talking about basketball, getting back to the MEAC major, division area, Norfolk State basketball goes 2-1 versus the pros in Puerto Rico's. They continue to get it done at Norfolk State. Norfolk State's men's basketball team earns a 96-88 victory over LBP Red All-Stars on Monday night at the Ruben Zahia Montes Coliseum, finishing 2-1 in the trio of exhibition games against pro competition in Puerto Rico. Tyrese Jenkins pushed the Spartans to a nearly wire win on Monday, knocking down 4 3-pointers in a 20-point effort. Mari Thomas proves his versatility as a scorer and a passer, recording 17 points and 8 assists. Terrence Jones and Jelani Darden added 14 points in each. The Spartans' only loss of the trip came on Saturday against LBP White All-Stars 72-61. They handled their own. They continue to get it done in many ways. Fascinating with this Norfolk State program. They always seem to keep a squad. It'll be fascinating to see under Coach Jones how they continue to build out that program. Any thoughts in terms of this basketball love, or how much basketball information is coming out at the start of things? Usually we're buried in football. Is it too early for basketball for you all, or do you like kind of making sure you mix in a little bit of this basketball news? I'm going to start with you, Charles.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye out on it, but, it's football season. So it's football season, so I'm be watching football.
Yeah, you act like you cheating on your diet there a little bit. Like, yeah, this. Mike, what about you?
Come on, man. Not to even ask me that question, man. It's football season. We here whetting our appetites. We talking about two-a-days. we so excited for football. We talking about two-a-days and what's going to be.
Talking about interviews on the sideline with players.
Exactly. Who interviewing? What the conditions like on the field? It's too early for basketball, though. Come on.
Well, we could talk about A&T football shifting to meet the new challenge in 2023 as they move into the Colonial, which is formerly known as the Colonial Coastal. With that, let's take our first break, get back on the other side, and see if we can bring you another great interview. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisine.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I wanted to get back into some of this football talk. Y'all talk a little bit too much basketball for me. I know you had to play some love there, but I'm kind of like Charles. Enough of that. I want to get into some breakout players this year. Let's start at FCS level, and you can put in a couple of Division II if you really want to go that. But let me start with you, Charles, just in terms of what are a couple of the players that you want to get a look at right now, and why?
There's a player in particular that I think is going to be a significant addition, especially to this Prairie View offense. This is a offense that was number one in rushing last year, but they actually have a couple of players that I'm keeping an eye on. One is Caleb Johnson, running back that is transferred in from Mississippi Valley State, bruising runner who can run in between the tackles, can bounce outside, but he's a great addition to this Prairie View offense. And Brian Jenkins from Alabama A&M, he's now over at Prairie View, and he's a mismatch issue, especially when you talk about a player who can do a lot of things against safeties who line up over him in the slot or linebackers that try to drop back in the zone, but he's a zone buster. So that's going to be a couple of nice additions to Prairie View's offense that I think are going to have breakout seasons. And I say breakout because that's probably a misnomer because they're known, but they're great additions, I think, to this Prairie View offense. And I think another one is J.D. Martin for Jackson State. J.D. Martin is an individual who he kind of got buried on the depth chart the past couple of seasons with Jackson State's offense, but he's a capable runner. Probably had a couple of fumbles, and that probably buried him on the depth chart, but he's a guy who can run in between the tackles, who can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's another Swiss Army knife type guy. So those are three players off the top of my head that I think are due for breakout years.
I want to stay with you, Charles, in regards to Prairie View down there. You named a couple of players in terms of what they're doing. Offensively, what do you see happening with those type of players? Obviously, they can focus on the run quite a lot when they did that. But with that being said, in a way, with that offense, what do you see those two players being able to bring to the table?
Balance. I think that's the biggest thing. When you take a look at, like I said, this team was number one in rushing last year in the SWAC. But you have a more mature Trayvon Conley. He adds another rushing element from the quarterback position. But they really have some toys they can play with in regards to the passing game. They got a couple of receivers that can beat you deep. And then Brian Jenkins is the slash guy who works the middle of the field, who works a lot. And, I just taking a look at what they do, that they're sort of under the radar, but I'm telling you, I think they really can make some noise. And then the biggest thing is they have a veteran offensive line. They have guys that have been there 2-3 years now, and they played together. So if those guys stay healthy, they're going to make some noise in the West.
Let me go to you, Mike, from a perspective. Are there any other guys that you see in the SWAC that really have piqued your interest in terms of what's going on here that you want to look at?
Yeah, so I'd like to take a look at I think I mentioned this before. I'm interested to see how Jeremy Musa performs. You got the Cadillac. You picked the big B top in the East. What's the reason? What's your excuse now? How are you going to do this year? I'm very curious to see how that's going to work. In addition, CB mentioned Caleb Johnson. I've been interested in him ever since, he came to PV. They had Ahmad Antoine, who's a top runner in and of itself. How are they going to balance that too? Keep the same intensity and focus of the running game and yet blend in this passing game. It only makes for sense that, with Prairie View, you're going to have to pick your poison, with a more balanced attack with the 6-foot+ receivers who actually have go get it possibilities. So I'm interested to see how that works. The other one that sparks my eyes is that Texas Southern and how Andrew Body will perform. He kind of fell off last year. Well, he supposedly has some support, and he's got a couple of receivers. He's got the Michael Porter out of DeSoto. You don't know if they built up enough pieces to protect him, but I think he's going to do a lot better than he did in 2022. It's just how much better can he do? Did TSU build up that line? Did they build up that system around him such that he could step to that next level? We all know he has the potential, but I'm interested to see how he does in 2023.
In terms of Texas Southern University and Body, any concerns in regards to the injury, or do you feel what you're hearing out there that he's returned, he's in good form? Obviously, his leadership characteristics in terms of him really getting that team to follow his leads is off the charts, as most people. But any concern from your perspective in terms of Body regarding the industry at the end of the year?
Me, no, I don't see anything. Maybe if he lost a half you see, maybe has he lost half a step? I think he brings a lot of intangibles to that. He's been with the system. He knows, he sees what's coming in. He's truly the leader. But I think his intangibles and what he brings, I don't see where he any depreciable loss that can affect his playing on the field that I've heard or seen. I'm not as close to the situation, so I can't speak as an expert, but just the intangibles that he brings, makes TSU a formidable fool. But I don't know of any depreciable things, physically that would hold him down on the field that I've seen or heard.
Going to you, Charles, in terms of FAMU, a lot of people have them obviously coming out of the SWAC. They were picked number 1 in the East Division. What would you say would be the biggest concern you have with FAMU? Even though they come in top 25, as you see in one coach's poll, much respect in terms of the expectations. But what gives you maybe some pause in Florida A&M, or is there anything that gives you pause?
I think the element that has been missing from Florida A&M, even the past 2 seasons, has been a rushing game. Can they run the ball? Yep. Because if it gets to a point where you can just pin your ears back and come after Jeremy Musa, at some point that has to catch up. But the question becomes, for me, with regards to FAMU, is can they run the ball? Now, I understand they have some great additions that have come into the program, but I think that's been sort of the question mark for FAMU in terms of getting over the hump with regards to Jackson State. Maybe that hump is not there anymore. So can they actually take the next step? We get to see it with regards to the Orange Blossom Classic, whether they are that team, if you will. They come in with all the accolades. Jeremy Musa is the preseason SWAC Offensive Player of the Year. But again, without a running game, I question, how far the team can go.
Mike, I'm going to go to the West Division with you. Southern was selected to come out of there. In terms of that division, any concerns you have with Southern in regards to what is the biggest pause that you would say, hey, maybe not so fast for Southern as they're selected to get it done this year?
Well, who's going to lead them? Who's going to Who's gonna man out? Who's gonna captain that team? Who's gonna be the quarterback? That's the first thing you're looking for right now. But the other thing is, consistency. I guess you've heard about their commits. They definitely have a plethora of folks on the offensive side of the board, but you wonder can that offense be consistent in times when it really counts? And they've always had questions at that quarterback position. Last year, I think they rotated 2 or 3 different quarterbacks. Is it going to be one consistent quarterback this year? Because so goes the leadership on the offensive side of the ball. At quarterback, so goes the team. So that's the question that I have for Southern.
Man, both of y'all just mean people. You shouldn't worry about the Rattlers. They fine. Jaguars. It's going to be Clash of the Titans. They'll be playing twice this year, some people say.
That's what I heard.
Contest, and then again in the championship. But there's a couple of other teams in the East as well as the West that said not so fast. That's what's going to be fascinating this season, at least in the SWAC, to see. We'll take this break, come back on the other side, and give you some things to look at in terms of the MEAC and the independents. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this second break.
You see, Head & Shoulders has scalp shield technology, protects against flakes even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. We're never not working. Number 15?
That's my rub.
Ooh, nice.
Never not working.
Never, ever, never, ever not working.
Welcome everybody to Juneau, Alaska.
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders scalp shield technology.
Stride K-12 powered schools are ready to put over 20 years of being a leader in online education to work for you. Dive into curriculum design for the online classroom. Team up with state-certified teachers trained in virtual instruction. Take control of your child's education journey. Discover the power of personalized learning with a leader experienced in preparing kids for a future they can be excited about. Take charge. Stride K-12. Enroll now for the fall.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Impress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Mills inside the HBCU Sports Lab, where we showed out a little bit for the SWAC. You told me what to watch out for, who some key players to look at. Went deep in there and gave some love to the Texas schools there, but also had your concerns or shared with me the concerns or questions I asked you with FAMU and Southern in regards teams selected to come out of there. So I guess my first question before we get into players, I just got to ask this. North Carolina Central, we see them as a top 25 team, highest ranked FCS HBCU program out there. Players galore. You can talk about both of these players. Davis Richard was the offensive preseason player of the year, North Carolina Central. Khalil Baker, defensive player of the year, North Carolina Central. Is there anybody that's going to be able to stop this train from North Carolina Central? Many people would think they were maybe a year ahead of schedule, but now they're on pace. They got a lot of pieces coming back. Some people say they're pretty hungry. I'm going to start with you, Mike. Can anybody stop this train? We'll start in the MEAC, and if the way we're predicting, that means they'll be in the Celebration Bowl. Can somebody out of the SWAC stop the curse, for lack of better words, which means they would stop this train? What do you say, Mike?
No. No. Simple answer is no. You could say, well, who was the team that beat them last year? South Carolina
Josh would
State.
like to hear that, but I was thinking maybe you would.
No, there's no analysis whatsoever. So on paper, no. So not anybody that just stands out. You could go, well, last year, South Carolina State, I think, played them real tough as well. You could say, well, Howard has a puncher's chance. But, you know, I once had a puncher's chance against Evander Holyfield. You know, so no. Yeah, you look at who they have on first team offense: Latrell Colliard, Devin Smith, Simpkins. The center is still even back. I mean, come on, they got pretty much their whole team back. And, you know, let's look at, you know, statistics. You know, they pretty much led, you know, most of the MEAC. Yes, it's 6 teams statistically in 2022, and they haven't lost any of the major pieces. So, no, I don't see any team really pushing them for that spot coming out of the MEAC. Maybe I'm wrong.
We told you about defensive player Baker, but they got 3 other ones on the defensive side of the first team. That's not even getting into the second team offense where they have 3 coming on the second team. On defensive side, they got 3 on that side as well. I mean, I know it's only 6 teams, but still, that's a lot of players between the first team.
Six teams, but 6 teams if you count them up. I think 2/3 of their team is on all first team or all second team. That's still a lot.
Charles, can you break this party? Do you have something to announce to the people? Is Central that good?
Central is that good. I would love to break the party up, but I just don't see it. And we talked about a team that potentially has a puncher's chance being that Howard team. And that Howard does have some pieces that, you know, intrigue me, especially when you talk about Quentin Williams coming back at quarterback position. Then they got Jerry Hunter, a tough running back as well. Got some nice pieces on offense, especially I got Brennan Brown, tight end. He's a pro prospect. Shout out to his dad up in Dallas, Marlon Brown, a Jackson State product. But they got Casey Hawthorne as well, also first team on MEAC. But the gap from 50 to 21 is pretty large, and that's what North Carolina Central beat them last year, 50 to 21. In that game, Quentin Williams only went 10 of 20 for 100 and some change, 105 yards. So, you know, to me, that's it's a tall order to knock off North Carolina Central this year. They're loaded on offense. You talk about a passing game and a running game. Defense, they got guys, MEAC player of the year, got linebackers, got defensive linemen that everybody is spawning over. That is going to be a tall task to knock off North Carolina Central this year. I know Joshua somewhere just tickled pink about this North Carolina Central team.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, let me ask this way. Who is the second team to watch in the MEAC, Charles? Is it the Howard team that you spoke of, or are you saying somebody else is going to sneak in there?
I think Howard would be that team. I think and I guess, honestly, with the MEAC teams, I'm always looking for a team that can score some points because they seem to be just from I guess a character standpoint, very defense oriented over there in the league, run the ball tough. but I'm always looking for that team that can put some points up. And like I said, I think with Quentin Williams coming back for Howard, and he got some things on the outside, got a running game, got a nice tight end. Howard could be that team that can put some points up and can scare some defenses.
Jonathan Blackman wanted me to remind you all, Corey Fields is 3-0 against North Carolina Central. He does not.
Shaq ain't there.
When I asked you the second team, yeah, it's different now.
Shaq gone.
Mike, I asked you the second team, you kind of shook your head with Howard. Are you leaning to South Carolina State as Blackman is illustrating here, or are you going in a different direction?
Nope. You got it right on the bot. I'm going with South Carolina State. That defense, you got a couple of D linemen that look good, Patrick Godbold, Lawrence Richardson. So I think, and then I believe Howard has to go to Orangeburg, South Carolina, this year as well. So I kind of look at that. That was the only other team. So I lean toward South Carolina State, those Bulldogs being the second team coming. If there is such a thing, the gap is still big to me between them and Central and the Eagles. But I think gap included, I put South Carolina State as number 2.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Jeff Roberts has just crowned him already. Randy King saying when it comes to the North Carolina Central and everybody else, Lonnie Shaw said Jeff Roberts freshman, but can't think of his name. Wendell Davis says late, but he's present, so he's in here. Richard Delaney. Chuck Hunt is in the building. Howard's an improved football program, but that famous but, I don't see them beating North Carolina Central. The game is in D.C. I guess that's not enough for you all. Ed Moore says, no, you didn't. Put that down, Mike. When Jenkins is in here checking us out, showing us some love. Chris Tucker is in here. Lonnie Shaw is talking his noise as usual. Silas Edward McMorris is doing Stephen George, Theron Waters is in the building. Lawrence D. White, LaShawn Harris, Ricky Burton. Just giving some love out here for those. What else we got? Karen Griffin, Edwin D. Moore, North Carolina, South Carolina High School Heritage Center. Update there in terms of the name. Arby Parker is here showing us some love. Good stuff. Emma Price. With that said, let's switch over a little bit. Tennessee State, looking at our independents. Draylon Ellis, Tennessee State senior, 2021 second team OVC. In 2020, he was OVC freshman of the year. Can he bring Tennessee State home in regards to getting them out of the middle of the pack, out of the bottom of what now is the partnership between the OVC and the Big South? Can Tennessee State take that next step? And if not get it done in the OVC Big South, can they at least come up with a winning season? Sticking with you, Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of Tennessee State, particularly looking at Draylon Ellis?
So the short answer is, can they have a winning record? There's a chance maybe they could finish just about 500. You look at Draylon Ellis, okay? But you look at where they are the last 3 years, data points. Finished middle of the pack, offensive, averaging 314 yards per game, okay? That's good by most standards, but the number 1 team was getting about 500 or 600 yards. So that's about if I do my math, 200 to 300 yards per game difference. They finished second in the OVC in defense. So they got some pieces on the defensive front, but I don't know if they have enough offensively to go with the big hitters in the OVC. And if you look at, who's expected to come up again, that's, Southeast Missouri, Gardner-Webb, UT Martins. I don't know if they have enough offense to overcome those teams. And if you look, I think the preseason poll pretty much agrees with that. I see them middle of the pack. They have a chance of finishing over 500, where they normally finish middle of the pack, but not enough to make any noticeable splash of a difference between last year or 2021 and this year.
Man, you tough. Charles, what are your thoughts on Tennessee State? They got that matchup against Pine Bluff. They have Norfolk State coming from homecoming. Give me some thoughts. Can Tennessee State get over the hump in regards? Brandon King's in here listening, so he wants to know about his status up there in Nashville.
No, I tell you what, Tennessee State, they played some really good defense. And I'm curious to see, can we get back to the Tennessee State that I knew growing up? I mean, you're talking about a defense that flew around all over the place, big offensive lineman up front, tough, hard-nosed running back. Jalen Rouse is a name that comes to mind in terms of really told the mail for Tennessee State this upcoming year. But, can they make a dent in OVC? The data points, like Mike said, to this point, no, it hasn't happened. But I'm curious to see if this is a team that can really make some strides with regards to probably playing the way Eddie George wants them to play. And that's tough, physical football. I tell you what, they did a heck of a job last year against Jackson State. That game was really nip and tuck, going all the way into the fourth quarter until Jackson State made a couple plays in the fourth quarter. But defensively, I was very surprised and really took my hat off to them in terms of the way they played last year from a defensive standpoint. Can they get some offense up and going and make some big plays? That's the question in a tough conference. So I'm not sure. The jury's still out on Tennessee State. It would be nice to see them, back up in the upper echelon in terms of talking HBCU football.
Well, we take our last break, come back on the other side. I wanted to come back as we started the show off and talk a little bit about the poll rankings. Before we do that, to kind of start that off and close the segment, we'll go into the Colonial with North Carolina A&T and Hampton. I know a lot of people are not really looking at Hampton. They were picked last in the Colonial, top 25. You had North Carolina A&T receiving some votes. What are some things that you're looking for with North Carolina A&T or Hampton? Can Hampton, do they have some players that at least put them in position to get it done? Or is it all about A&T in regards to their ability to navigate the first season in the Colonial, Charles? What do you say?
Tough conference. Tough conference. I mean, I can't be any more succinct.
To your point, they have five teams in the top 25 that we focused on over HBCUs with 2 teams in there. But the Colonial, now known as the Coastal, I should say, formerly known as the Colonial. We'll do it that as everybody is doing that for Twitter in terms of X, formerly known as Twitter. 5 teams are in that top 25, to your point.
And that's not to say they aren't going to be good teams, Hampton, North Carolina A&T, but my goodness, that conference is, you said it, 5 teams in the top 25. So, you either got to raise your program up to that level or it's going to be a long season. But, I like what A&T and Hampton have done in terms of stockpiling some talent, but that's a tough conference.
What do you say Hampton's going to get done in terms of their HBCU matchups? They got one against the SWAC against Grambling to open things up. Then they come back and play Norfolk State. They have Howard in terms of the HU, and then obviously they have their conference game A&T. What do you see Hampton able to get done in terms of the HBCU competition?
When you take a look at Grambling and you take a look at Norfolk State, they're both coming off of down years. They are definite question marks going into this season. So obviously, I think Hampton has a good punch of chance in terms of getting W's against both of those teams. I think with regards to the talent that they do have, they should get the W. But Grambling and Norfolk State, I'm not sure if they will provide the challenge to Hampton that you would think that that teams of yesteryear, Norfolk State and Grambling, would have provided.
Man, Norfolk has a chance to really make a statement. They got Tennessee. They got all 3 independent. They got Hampton, they got A&T, and they got Tennessee State. That's an intrigued schedule for Norfolk State when you talk about that. But what I wanted to ask you is about A&T. You frowning up. You sound like you're not happy about Norfolk State facing those teams there. I thought you'd be a little bit okay. Not yet. They're not quite ready for that. What about A&T in their schedule? Can they get it? Can they surprise the world against North Carolina Central? They do have them at home in that second game.
Oh, that's a rivalry. That's a rivalry game. Any rivalry game can go either way. So I think North Carolina Central, when you take a look at that win over them last year, that sent them into a different stratosphere. So it'd be curious to see what A&T can do against Central. We talked about how big a buzzsaw that this Central team is going to be this season. If A&T comes out and knocks them off, you never know where that could catapult them going into the season.
That's a good one. I like that. You got to keep your eye on that matchup. Just something about it. Rivalry games, particularly early in the season, you just don't know. Mike, some of the same questions. I'm going to start with A&T. Schedule, some players to watch. What are your thoughts? Or you can put in there Hampton as well. Just want to know some of your thoughts in terms of what the season we can expect from Hampton or A&T.
Well, for Hampton, I don't see them changing much. You look at a team over the last 2 years that scores, give or take 20 points a game, averages 320 yards per game total offense, and they're in a conference where the top 4 or 5 are topping out at about 460, 450 yards per game total offense. So offensively, firepower, I don't know if they have enough to make a dent in the league. You bring North Carolina A&T in there and you look at where they did 2020, and they're an order of magnitude better. So they have a chance to finish in the middle of the division, even though 4 or 5 of those are in the preseason top 25. I think North Carolina A&T with the right pieces can come in there and make a larger splash. Time will tell. We'll see.
Charles wouldn't bite on this. Norfolk State schedule having 3 independents, Tennessee State, Hampton, and A&T. Your thoughts on that?
So, yeah, I actually like Norfolk State against Grambling because it depends on which Grambling. This ain't 1980s Grambling. This ain't the 90s Grambling. This is Grambling in the year our Lord 2022.
Grambling against Hampton.
I'm sorry.
It's Grambling against Hampton in terms of that matchup. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I'm sorry. You're going in and out, so I missed part of that question. Sorry.
No, I was saying it's Grambling against Hampton, but I was talking about Norfolk State. All 3, they play Hampton as well as A&T and Tennessee State. And so I didn't know which direction you were going.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Charles, but I don't know if I'll bite on that. I like Norfolk State's chances. I like I've been a fan of their coach ever since he left Southern, so I like their chances this year against the independents, with the exception of you know what, I do like their chances in all 3 matchups. I'll go ahead and just say that.
I like that. You go pause. He said, "No, I'm taking them off." With that, let's go into our last break. We'll come back on the other side and give you some more thoughts about football.
Good question.
And Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry. Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it. Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplify Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplify Development Services.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
That's a pretty tight spot.
Watch this.
Of course your Buick parks itself. That's so you.
It's just up here on the right.
Of course you know where we're going. That's so you.
Kinda got a 6th sense.
And a head-up display.
here.
Hit the field, warm up. You brought all these players in your Buick?
Yeah,
So you.
it is.
There's a Buick that fits your life because at the heart of every Buick SUV is you.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Test the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention.
This is Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike, wanted to get your thoughts. You were talking about the top 25 in terms of some of those teams that were not in the top 25. I wanted to go ahead and get your clarity on that.
So let me, I'll start. Let's start with the D2. So you know who we have in there. So I guess the ones to me that were missing that stood out are others receiving Bowie State and Tuskegee. I think Tuskegee, I believe, had 16 votes. Bowie State, they had about 50 votes. And then if I look at some of the 25 top, you look at Newberry in South Carolina, you look at Lenore Rhines and Emporia, and you try to match up scale on scale, you wonder if Bowie State, should have been in that top 25 amongst some of those, maybe even West Georgia. Bowie State had a pretty good season, garnered enough votes, obviously. And so I wondered, how they would have fared and should they have been in the top 25. You could also kind of make a case for Tuskegee, which was not present as well. The other one, to me, that should have at least picked up some votes was Fort Valley. They had a strong enough. We were talking about Fort Valley, if you recall, in 2022 for most of the season. I think a key loss at the end, but Fort Valley had a pretty strong season. We were talking about them as a possible contender, and you compare at least the last 7 or 8 teams that are in the preseason. You at least would expect Fort Valley to garner some votes, at least D2. And I guess we'll talk about D1 in a little bit. Those are just my initial thoughts when I was looking at this list for the D2 preseason order. Preseason.
No,
let me go straight.
Go ahead, Doc.
Go ahead, Charles. No, I was just going to ask you, Mike.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head on all of those things. Tuskegee especially was one that kind of raised my eyebrow to see them, I guess, close enough, but not quite there. But all of these teams, and this is going back to the SIAC Media Day, they all have very big chips on their shoulder. So it's going to be very interesting watching them the first month of the season, because you hit the nail on the head. I mean, Tuskegee, Fort Valley, even when I went and listened to the CIAA Media Day, you just kind of listen to a few teams and it kind of miffed that they're not, that team anymore. And of course, this always happens every media day, but you just sort of pay attention.
No, I think you're right. I think it was a little something more going on. I feel like I was going in one of those wood chippers going in there. It was a lot of chips floating around there. You make a whole on in regards to what looked up there. So I think you got great points. I don't think what normally goes on. There's a lot of folks that feel in a certain kind of way that they weren't getting the love that some other team or a team was getting.
Yeah, Bowie was feeling a certain kind of way. I was like kind of listening in, like, that sounded different.
So keep your eye on Division 2. The ACCIAA, it could be intriguing. I'm gonna stick with you, Charles. let's go in regards to top 25. I know Mike brought this up, but I want to get you first. Any glaring looks in terms of teams not in the top 25 from the FCS major division perspective, from your thoughts on it?
I think it's tough. Obviously, Jackson has 21 game win streak, regular season win streak, back-to-back SWAC champions, and then for them to go from basically top 5 team to receiving votes, that's tough, but I think it's fair. You know, that's a team that's had a lot of turnover. They get a chance to prove it next week. Quite honestly, I think.
Charles, I agree with you, but they didn't even get the receiving votes.
They didn't get receiving votes.
Usually, you might have a team a little bit low. You usually give them credit. You be like, all right, I don't think they're going to do it, but they've been here, so I'm going to put them up there, and then they fall out if they don't get it done. But not even put them up there. I think you're being kind of nice and respectful because you don't want people to think that you're over pushing Jackson State. But I'm going to let Mike do his part on this, so you don't have to even go.
Yeah,
my granddad said it's hard, but it's fair.
Hey, no. All
right,
no,
I like
no. No, You got the SWAC championship 2 years in a row. To be the champ, you got to be the champ. I don't care what, yes, they've gone through change. All these teams have gone through changes. Mercer was the second or third team in their division, and they're 7-4 and still made the top 25. Come on, really? No, Jackson State should have at least at a minimum received a number. I'm not talking 2 or 3, a number of votes in this consideration. You mean Howard got 5 and Jackson State couldn't get 1? What kind of math is this?
I tell you what. I tell you what. If I was Jackson State going into this SWAC MEAC challenge, the chip that I would have on my shoulder going into that game.
I'm going to say you talking about chips.
The chip that I would have on my shoulder going.
You talking about showing no love? This team was in the top 25 last year. Jackson State was you, and they can't give 1 vote. And Howard, we talking Howard, not Mississippi State Valley. We talking Howard. Howard got 5 votes. I'm sorry.
Woo! Well, that'll do it for us. And give y'all some things to talk about. Appreciate all the lab listeners out here. And Mike and Charles get it going. Mike stood up, said it loud with his chest. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday to give you some more HBCU talk of the week. We look forward to discuss the latest in the news. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyatta That's DrKenyatta on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismiss.